My name is Marifer Aceves, and today I will be interviewing Judge Maricela Moore with my partner Kandace Walter for the DBA's Living Legends series. Judge Maricela Moore is currently the presiding judge of the 162nd Judicial District Court of Dallas County, Texas, and the local administrative district judge. She previously also served as the presiding judge of the Central Jury Room. In 2019, she was named by the American Board of Trial Advocates as the Dallas Judge of the Year. Judge Moore received her Bachelor's of Science from Boston College and her law degree from George Washington University, National Law Center in Washington, D.C. Prior to her judicial service, Judge Moore practiced commercial litigation with an emphasis on trade secret, breach of contract, and employment litigation. Judge Moore is board certified by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization in Labor and Employment Law. Currently, Judge Moore serves as the chairperson of the Christus Health System Board of Directors. She is also a fellow of the Dallas Bar Foundation and Dallas Association of Young Lawyers Foundation. She is on the advisory board of the Dallas County Dispute Resolution Board and the University of North Texas Law School. Judge Moore is a member of the College of the State Bar of Texas and a master in the Mac-Taylor Inn of Court. Judge Moore previously served as the president of the Dallas Hispanic Bar Association, Dallas Hispanic Law Foundation, and MABA, Texas. Please enjoy our interview with Judge Moore.
So hello, today we're here with Judge Maricela Moore. She's the judge for the 162nd Civil District Court. She's also the local administrative district judge. And my name is Kandace Walter. I'm an alumnus of the DBA We Lead program, so I'm so excited to be here with you today. So I wanted to jump right in. You have an amazing biography, an amazing career, and so I'm really excited to dig into that today. So we've seen that you have a lengthy record of service in the community and community engagement with students. So what motivated you to become and then to stay involved after all these years?
So first of all, let me say thank you for including me in this great project. I'm so excited that you guys are taking the time to talk to some of us, and I can't wait to watch the interviews with some of the other great people that are participating in the DBA's project. So with respect to my efforts to remain engaged with the community, I'll tell you, as a judge, it is one of my favorite parts of the job. Just this week, I will tell you, I spoke to the 5th grade at my kids' school, which was really fun. They all submitted questions, and the social studies teacher then had kind of this similar type of an interview, but it was all 5th grade questions. And then I had the opportunity to do that again with 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders at Geneva Heights Elementary School. So I've had lots of kid interviews this week. And I get so excited about that because, the reality is that that's our future. And if we are in positions of what is perceived as leaders of the community, whether we're judges, lawyers, or what have you, and we represent diversity in terms of we're female, Hispanic, African-American, and we can engage with young students and they can say, you know what, you look like me, you sound like me, your family background is similar than mine because you don't come from a long list of lawyers. You're a first in your family. That connection with young kids is, in my opinion, so easy to make and can then pay in multiples. I started really engaging with young kids through a program that Tom Dunning began with DISD about a decade ago. And it was actually kind of fun. I did one of these speeches that was pre-COVID, so it was all in person. And DISD put the entire program on YouTube and showed it to all these schools. And I get such a kick out of it because you look at the expression on these young kids' faces and their energy and their excitement to be around a lawyer or a judge, and they just love it. So for me, it is a great treat. And I encourage other professionals to remain active in the community and give back by just having a conversation with our youth about what it takes in terms of hard work. And, some of the greatest stories I tell students when I talk to them are my stories of when I ran for office and lost. when I tried a case to a jury and failed miserably, did not convince a single person to side with my client. And I think that humility and the practicality of what it takes to become successful and whatever your professional goals are is really something we don't talk enough to young students about. And that's what they need to hear. They need to hear it's going to be hard, but it's worth it. So I love being able to serve the community in that small little way that I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's amazing. So now that Justice Denise Garcia has moved up to the 5th District Appeals Court, you're the only Latina presiding over a district bench in Dallas. So why do you think diversity is important to the judiciary in general? And then what can other lawyers and allies of diversity do to change this and increase diversity on the bench?
Well, I think that's a great question. And it's obviously very timely. I served on a panel discussion with Dallas Bar just earlier this week, doing a lot of Zoom panel discussions this week. And the discussion was relating specifically to that, increasing diversity within the profession, whether it's in-house counsel, management positions in law firms, or the judiciary. And I also served on a panel with the State Bar of Texas not too long ago that specifically talked about how to recruit more minorities to serve in the judiciary. And the reason why it's important is very simple. And I say this frequently when I have the opportunity. Diversity is not important because it's the right thing to do, because it feels good, because we all, hear about it. Diversity is important because the marketplace requires it and the community expects it. When you have a diverse community such as Dallas, which is so rich in culture and differences of ethnicities and race and where people come from, the judiciary must represent that, because when people come into the courtroom, they will feel more like they should, which is this is their courtroom. I may have the great honor, my great professional privileges being able to preside over this court in this room that I'm in right now. It's very quiet right now, but it is a great honor. But this is not my courtroom. This is the people's courthouse. And I can't tell you how many times I've had the ability to connect with Spanish-speaking litigants, people who are foreign to the system, who simply feel more comfortable knowing that there are people in this courthouse presiding over courts that perhaps come from similar communities that they do. And so the reasons for it, I think, are very practical. It's because this is the community's courthouse, and we should have the community represented in all aspects, whether it's the litigants, the staff within the courthouse, and also the judges. Now, the harder question that you asked, which I think is a great question, is, okay, so what do we do about it? How do we get more minorities to run for office? I know right now we don't have very much representation in the Hispanic community in the district court system, even including the criminal courts. We have some great people, good friends of mine, colleagues. Judge 𝐏𝐥𝐞𝐚𝐬, Hector 𝐏𝐥𝐞 is fabulous. He's in the criminal courthouse. We have Judge Lopez, who's downstairs. He is a family court lawyer, and I'm here. And so the district courts are very slender when it comes to representation. What we can do is we can encourage qualified people to consider serving. And the first thing I tell people is, if you have an interest in serving, and we need good qualified people from all aspects of our community to consider being a public servant, the first thing you need to do is work incredibly hard to learn your skill set. What we don't need is people coming to serve before they have learned how to try cases, preside over a court. If you're looking at an appellate court, go do some appeals, go get your hands dirty, because what we really need is quality in this courthouse that reflects the community. And then the second thing that we can do is encourage people to serve. It is a sacrifice. It's a family sacrifice, but in my experience, it's worth it. But people won't know that until we engage with them and talk to them and encourage them. Sometimes just being told, you have what it takes to be a good steward of the justice system is all that someone needs. I was very blessed. When I was in law school, I interned for a federal judge, Judge Ricardo Urbina, who was fabulous. And he made it very clear to me that it would be a waste of my talents to simply become a lawyer and not serve, because he saw in me this ability to give back. And I was a young law student, but that kind of resonated with me, and it kind of put a seed in my mind. And then great Judge 𝐏𝐥𝐞𝐚, who was the presiding judge over this court, who is a great friend and mentor. I cannot speak highly enough about her. When I tried a case in her court, she pulled me aside and said, you really should think about this, because you would be good at it. And we need to do that with other minorities, because I am very thankful that they had that confidence in me to at least comment that I have what it takes to be a good public servant. So we need to do a better job of creating a broader net of including and encouraging women and minorities of all different parts of our community, and great men. We don't want to see all of the men leave the courthouse. Some of my greatest mentors and friends, are here also. So we need everyone represented in the judiciary, but we need to work hard to support those qualified people to serve.
Mm-hmm. I know. I agree with you. So can you please explain to us, you mentioned before your unsuccessful campaign. So can you explain to us your thoughts on premature success and how that impacted your campaigns and your career?
So great question. I was actually just commenting yesterday on a different discussion I was having that some of the hardest challenges that I've had professionally have made me the strong professional that I think I now am. Had I not lost at jury trials, I probably would have been afraid to try cases. Had I not lost my first campaign, which was a very hard-fought campaign, a very long campaign, I don't know if I would be the judge that I am today. And I think that that comment, premature success, and I think it comes from NASA, that they refer to not failures of missions, but a premature success. And I think with the right mindset and the right determination, that is what professional ups and downs look like. It's hard to lose a campaign, but I'm proud of the fact that I stepped out and I ran, and that I gave all that I did, and what I thought was a very professional campaign. My kids were proud of me. My kids, they were very young at that point. I tell this story frequently, that the first time I ran, my daughter was 3 years old. And I lost, and I had to explain to the kids, because they were like, this doesn't make any sense. You've been gone for 12 months. You've been working. How could you lose? And I told them, sometimes you work hard, but sometimes you lose. That is part of life. Get ready, put on your working boots if you're going to have a life worth living, because it's not always easy. So then you fast forward. And then when I ran for office the second time, and my daughter at that point was 7, and we were at the night of trying, I was going to find out my results and, our family results, because it's a family effort. And she turned to me, she goes, Mommy, just remember, sometimes you lose. I thought, well, this time I'm planning on winning, but thanks for reminding me. But, that's just a comment of, that's a practicality of life. And we should not be afraid of putting ourselves out there, recognizing that you may not be successful the first time. That doesn't mean you were not successful in achieving your goal at some point. It just may not be the right time. Mm-hmm. And I know that's a lot easier to say once you've run, lost, and then run and won. But I do try to encourage that message, that we have to be able to do that, particularly even with trying cases. I frequently comment that we don't have enough women that are first chairing trials. I see so many talented, articulate, hardworking women, and in the pre-lit stage, they are frequently the ones that are giving me all of the legal matters and, really going head to head with me on issues before the court. But then when it comes to the jury trial, oftentimes, and particularly more in commercial cases, they're second chairing. And I think the reason for that sometimes is the fear of losing, and then having to be that first chair. And so I frequently say, you're going to have to get in that first chair. You have to, because we have to have more women that are the Charlotte Aldoses and the 𝐓𝐿𝐴 𝐾𝐚𝐬s, these brilliant women who they first chair their trials because they are not afraid of the loss. So anyway, that's, that's part of what we do. It's a hard profession, but boy, it certainly is worth it.
Mhm. And then do the jurors ever make any comments to you about why the woman is sitting at the table but not saying anything?
Yes.
Do the jurors notice that?
It's interesting. I think there's so much to learn from speaking to jurors. When we were in jury trials, which hopefully we'll get back to in the next season or two, I used to give the jurors an evaluation after the trial. And it was a pretty extensive evaluation. They were able to comment about me, how they perceived my role and how I was able to communicate with them. My staff, they all love my staff because I have the greatest staff in the courthouse. But then I also gave them an opportunity to comment about the lawyers. What I have found is jurors are much more candid when they can do it in writing rather than just sit in a courtroom. And the comments that I would receive, I think, say a lot about how jurors and people in our community want to see women and minorities being respected, particularly in a courtroom. And there was one case, it was a 4-week products liability case that I tried. Very, very contentious case, excellent lawyers, very sad facts. And so we all, including the jurors, took our jobs very seriously. We were all kind of in it to win it for this month that we stayed, like a family in the justice system. And at the end, one of the jurors commented that there was only one female that, what they would say, that did anything, which obviously there are many women that did, but they just weren't in the well of the courtroom, so they didn't see them. And this juror commented, and the male lawyers would always forget her name. And I thought that was interesting that this juror picked up on it and did not like it. And so I think that it is something that if you want to tell your story properly to a jury, and I can give you statistics when you're, in Dallas County, jurors, they make up approximately 50% of those on jurors are women. 23% are Hispanic, 21% are African-American. And so that's what your jury looks like. They want to see people that look like them engaging actively in the jury trial. And they notice when that's not the case.
I think so. So let's talk about COVID. How has COVID changed your court and the movement of the cases? And what do you think the future is for remote or Zoom litigation or even just hearings?
Oh boy, this is a great topic. I think this one we could talk about for hours. So I'll make it very brief. First of all, it has changed. And some parts of it, I think, have been really excellent. And there are things that we've learned that we never would have tried before. And I'll give you a specific example. So on Tuesdays, I have docket call and I'll have, 40 lawyers that have to announce ready for trial. Now, clearly, I'm not going to try 40 cases in a week. What an inefficient use of time for all of those lawyers to have to come down to the courthouse, sit in the courtroom for a 5-minute conversation with the court so that I can ask them, are there any motions pending? Have you mediated? Or is there anything you need to discuss with the court? Because, this is where you are on the trial docket. That is such a waste of judicial resources and of the lawyers' resources to do that in the courtroom. I love being able to do docket call by Zoom. I never would have imagined that was even an option, but it's very simple. I get everyone on the Zoom, everyone mutes. I go through the cases. Sometimes they can actually hear what's going on in other cases. So I think it's helpful for them as well. And I can run through that and get that one-on-one time with the lawyers in all the cases very quickly. And so something like that, kind of a procedural, the down and dirty work of the court, I think is much more efficiently done on Zoom. And I will most likely keep those kinds of opportunities for lawyers, motions for continuance. I've had depositions where I need to get involved because there's a question that's arisen and we jump on a Zoom. And this is obviously much more intimate than on a phone. Mm-hmm. And so I really do think the whole idea of teleconference is gone. Getting someone on the phone, nope, just put them on the camera. I'm sitting in my courtroom right here on my bench, if you were to see, and I'm able to engage with you as if you were here. So that is a positive. Now, there are parts of the system that I do not think can be replicated by virtual presentation. I think that witness examination. Anytime where you have the credibility of a witness that's at issue, whether it's an expert, a fact witness, or something of that nature, that needs to be in a courtroom. And what I have found is that people act differently when the institution falls upon their shoulders and they can see it in real life. I'll be quite frank. I've had non-jury trials when witnesses are sitting as you and I, but they're at home in their living room testifying, and I don't think they were as candid as they would have been in the courtroom. I think there is something about this room that makes people remember you are under oath, and this is serious stuff. You're not sitting in your kitchen drinking coffee while you're talking to the judge. And so I do not think that we can replace trials and things of that nature with virtual presentation. That is something that I have not done while we've been in COVID. Other than a non-jury trial where the parties agree, and those are a little bit easier. But other than that, I just think that there is something about this room that is important. There is the art of advocacy that we see with the great lawyers in Dallas County when they come into this courtroom. That needs to remain part of our skill set and our practice. And so I think that, post-COVID, we're going to learn there are some efficiencies that can be gained by engaging by teleconference, but you can't replace the courtroom when credibility and advocacy require that intimate conversation with the court.
Mm-hmm. And so have you had any jury trials this past year, or you haven't had any jury trials?
No. So in Dallas County, we have not had any jury trials, except there was one virtual trial that occurred last November. And I actually, as the LA DJ, I just engaged with the Dallas Auditor's Office, the Dallas County Auditor, to do an entire analysis of what are the pros and cons of a virtual trial. And that report is actually, was just finalized, and I'll present it to the commissioners later this month. And I think what we'll find from looking at the report is that there is no substitute for the courtroom. I think that jurors, witnesses, people just need this institution in the old-fashioned sense for certain particular types of proceedings. And so my court will not be engaging in virtual jury trials. But I'm hoping is that if things continue to progress, we will be at a point where we can get back to in-person trials. I don't want to say a date because all the lawyers will say, Judge, you said on such and such date, but I'm hoping it will be as soon as we can do so in a safe and effective way.
Yeah, I hope so too. And then this is my last question. What advice do you have for women, or really just any diverse person who aspires to be a jurist? What should they be thinking about as they progress through their career?
So the first thing that I always advise is learn your skills. Don't jump into, I want to be the judge before I know how to be the lawyer. And the reason I say that is I don't say that simply. I say it because I've learned in my own experience that I am better, I'm more capable, and I think that I am a better judge because I have practice in the areas that are now before me. And these are very fundamental things. For example, discovery disputes. If you've never been in a complex commercial litigation case and have never understood how the dynamics of e-discovery work, then it's really difficult when you have these issues that are presented to you and you don't know how that really works, or some of the legal matters that come before the court. I think that my work as a lawyer, both in, at Baker McKenzie, and then when I worked in my own plaintiff's practice, that gave me perspective that I use every day when I preside over cases. And so the first thing I would say is work hard and learn your skills. Find avenues to try cases, to get in court, to do things so that you are a good jurist. And then the second thing that I would say is know that it is a sacrifice. It takes time. It requires a family commitment. Everybody has to be in it to win it. And then the third thing I would say is find mentors. Seek people like me out or others who've done it. I can tell you, quick shout out, without Judge Moyer and Judge Smith, and everyone knows I just adore both of them, I would not be the judge that I am. And the reason for that is that I was humble enough to go to them and say, I want to do this well. And so I want to learn from people that mentor me. And so I encourage that. Don't try to do this because you think you know everything. Surround yourself with people who are going to encourage you and that are going to assist you on your journey.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's very good advice. So thank you so much for answering my questions. And now I'm going to pass you over to Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kandace. And Judge, you know who I am, but just for purposes of the recording and for the interview, my name is Maria Marifer Aceves. I have my own firm, Aceves Law. And thank you to Kandace for her very insightful line of questioning. It was very interesting to hear your responses, Judge. And I thank her for being my partner on this DBA Living Legends project, which is being put on by the Dallas Bar Association. So, Judge, my question for you, I wanted to talk a little bit more about your journey getting on the bench. And so my understanding was that you initially ran for judge in 2012, and I know you touched on that when you were discussing that with Kandace. What inspired you to run for judge at that point in time in your career? Was there anything specifically that you felt made you decide that that was the correct time for you to pursue that endeavor?
So I kind of talked a little bit about Judge Raggio, and I'll get back to her in a second. One thing I'll say, and I think this is anything that is really a leap of faith, is there's never a perfect time. I analogize it to when I was at a law firm and people would say, look, if you are a young lawyer, male or female, and you want to start a family, there's no perfect time. You're never going to have just this, time period in your profession where you have all of this extra time. And so the first thing I would say is if it's something worth doing, then you're going to have to just find the time, find the opportunity. For me, the first time I ran, like I mentioned, I had two very young kids, 3 and 5. And, looking back, I don't know if it was the right time, but I do know that it was an opportunity. And I was encouraged by people that I respect and that believed in me, which, like I commented, is so important. I think we need to do a better job of encouraging good people to run for judge. Judge Raggio, I just cannot speak enough about her because she did really encourage me to consider it. Judge Moyer, I met probably in 2009 or so, and he was another member of the judiciary who encouraged me. And I think that because there was a recognition that there were so few representatives in the Hispanic community on the bench that were qualified, who had the experience, there was an interest in trying to find good people to add to that diversity factor. And so, looking back, I think it was somewhat of a leap of faith of just, this is something I want to do. I really always felt like that's where my skill set would be best suited, but I needed to, get the right experience. And so that's why I jumped in that first campaign. And like I mentioned, it was not successful, but it was so important to my growth. And I wouldn't change anything about it. I think that going through the process, realizing what it really takes and the skills I needed, and then continuing to hone them, quite frankly, after I lost for the next 4 years and trying to get as much experience as possible, contemplating that if I did have another opportunity, I would come with even more of a qualified look and portfolio of experience. And that's kind of what I did.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you touch on the issue of mentorship. As you know, you're one of my mentors. And so it's very special to be able to be interviewing you for this project. And you've provided me with invaluable guidance and advice. And I know that you indicated that Judge Raggio did the same for you. So I'd love to get your thoughts on mentorship and the importance of mentorship, just as an attorney and as, anyone who's aspiring to be a jurist as well. I'd like you to touch a little bit more on mentorship and how that's affected you specifically in your journey as well.
Well, one thing I would say about mentorship is I think that sometimes we look at it as the older professional needs to reach out. And I see it a little differently, and I'll give a specific example of why. So years ago, when I was, very, very young in my profession, I got to know 𝐓𝐿𝐴 who is one of the most amazing women attorneys I've ever met. She is just phenomenal, not only just as a lawyer, but as a mother, as a wife. She just has this just dynamic about her. Her family's from San Antonio, and so we have a lot in common. Well, I I took the opportunity to not just be a friend with her, but also to look to her for guidance. And I was active in seeking out her opinions. When I was very young in my career, even before running for judge, before I chose to switch firms or do something, I went to Ophelia and I would have coffee with her and say, what do you think about this? And I think that young lawyers need to be mindful and humble about the need for them to bounce ideas and professional opportunities off of those that they trust. And she always not just gave me great advice, but she asked me really good questions. Mm-hmm. And she did it from the right place of, be patient with your opportunities, but be driven in seeking them out. Don't wait for someone else, but be mindful of, where you are. And she did it, with this realization of, like she'd always say, Maricela, you can be a great lawyer, a great mom, a great wife. You're never going to be all three on the same day. And she, in her way, she'd go, just get over it. and you're like, oh, wow. Okay. But you need to hear that. And you need to hear that from people that kind of come from, the same place of what you're trying to aspire to be. So that is one comment about mentorship that I hope people hear is that, people like me, and I've said this to you many times, Marifer, is that I am so eager to support good people in their work. But, we get so busy that if you wait for me to call you, you might sit there without the phone ringing only because we're so busy. But when someone says to you, if you ever need anything, call me, take them up on that and reach out to them. And just, can I have a 5-minute call with you? Because I have something that's come up and I want to think about it. Those relationships, I think, will build a stronger professional. And it's actually also more fun.
Absolutely. And you actually touched on my next question a little bit. I'd love to talk about your background and how that's shaped your career and your outlook on life. And it's specifically the influence that your mom had in your career as an elected official in Travis County. If you could share with us a little bit about that.
Well, this is so interesting. So I was on a panel earlier this week and I was kind of talking about this, and I don't get the opportunity very often to kind of reminisce about, how I started in politics. So my mom, unbiasedly, she's just fabulous. She is, what I think I aspire to be. She's an amazing mother, amazing wife, an amazing professional. And it all comes from the right place. And she's very Latina in the way she does things. But so my mom she's an educator. She was an elementary school principal. She went through various stages of administration. But what's really neat about her is she was an elected official for 20 years in Austin. And she was the first Latina elected countywide in Travis County. And so I grew up, in the 80s in Austin, campaigning, phone banking, old school phone banking, when we would sit at, people from Austin would know Richard Moya's house on the east side, dialing numbers and hear this little 10-year-old is calling and asking them if they're going to vote, and people going, did your mother know you're on the phone? But I grew up with engagement with the community, block walking, sitting out at the Capitol 10,000, giving out oranges and learning from my mom and dad that public service is a calling. It's not about, and I say this frequently, it's not about a robe, it's not about a title. It's about wanting to serve your community. And I saw my mom do that. I saw my dad support her. I saw their engagement. I was very lucky to have amazing public officials that were frequently in our house that supported her, and then in turn supported me. And so to me, running for office was not foreign. It was something that I had learned from when I saw my parents do that hard work. And I encourage that with my kids. I don't hide my public official and my campaigning from my kids. I bring them along. And I think that's important because I think it demonstrates to them that public service is a great way of giving back to your community, but it takes a lot of hard work and it takes engagement and all of those things. I always laugh that, I had to learn how to work a room and shake hands when I was itty bitty. And that's what, I try to teach my kids. So I'm very thankful that my parents gave me that experience of public service from a hands-on perspective from a young age.
That's amazing and so special to be able to follow in their footsteps. In terms of accomplishments, what do you think would be your biggest accomplishment as a public servant and as a jurist?
I think that the work that I do, what I am most proud of is when lawyers have the ability to try very complicated, passionate cases in my court, and they feel like they are treated fairly. I had a case in my court, and it was a very long trial. I mentioned it earlier. It was a 4-week products liability case. The plaintiffs were represented by attorneys that were not from Dallas. And the first compliment that I received from them was they did not feel like they needed local counsel, because they felt like they didn't need that in order to understand me and to understand what was required of me and to be treated fairly by me. And after this case, and the plaintiffs did not prevail, it was a very, very hard case. It had some very sad facts relating to a young boy and injuries to a young boy. And the lead counsel sent me a really nice note, which I keep. And he told me, he said, it was a hard case. They were very disappointed in what happened. He said, but I would not have asked for a better judge or a different judge, that I was fair. He felt like he was able to tell his client's story. And to me, that's what makes me proud. I want to be a judge that respects the rule of law. I'm very bound by precedent. I say frequently, I took an oath to enforce it as it is. And so sometimes I may not agree, but that's not my prerogative. And I want lawyers to feel like when they come to my courtroom that I read everything and that I study it and that I'm academic in my engagement with them, because I know how hard it is to be a lawyer. I mean, I know how hard I worked when I would put together these briefs and so forth. And I wanted to just at least feel like the judge was putting the same amount of attention into my case that I did. And so for me, when I think about what legacy or what do I want people to say about Judge Moore, years and years and years from now, and I hope that they say that, she was a hardworking judge that treated everyone fairly, that she was kind, that she was stern. Because I think that is a difficult combination, but it is necessary in order to respect the position that we as judges fill here in the courthouse.
Absolutely. And speaking of your legacy, and I can now ask you about this because it's official, you're going to be running for the District Court of Appeals, the Dallas County District Court of Appeals, or the Dallas District Court of Appeals. Tell us a little bit about that decision and the thought process behind that decision, and what we can expect from you in the future.
So, I think it's kind of similar to the question you asked earlier, why and timing and so forth. And, timing is never perfect. But I have a lot of, like I said, great mentors that I'm able to bounce ideas off of. And I think that what I've been able to do on the trial court has really opened my mind to so many issues in the justice system. And I think that we need good, qualified individuals on the Court of Appeals. I'm board certified in employment law, and Judge Mulberg is a fabulous friend and mentor. He's on the court, and I joke with him, he needs another employment guy, and Justice Rychek had an employment background. We bring that skill set. I'm so glad that Judge Garcia has moved up there. She brings so much in the family courts. And for me, it's just another step in my journey of public service, and where I can see myself utilizing my talents and my desire to work hard to create a very strong justice system. And so that's the next step, and we'll see what happens. I'm excited about it. I get very, I get excited about the idea that there is so much that we can provide in this great justice system, and quite frankly, in Dallas County, because there are so many great lawyers, and the caliber of legal work that comes out of this county, I think, is just next to none in Texas. And so for me, I'm engaged by this opportunity to continue to interact with great lawyers here.
Very exciting. Well, we look forward to seeing how everything rolls out, and we're excited for you, Judge. So
thank you.
I think that pretty much wraps up our line of questioning. We thank you so much for being here today and sharing with us your thoughts and your background and answering our questions candidly and honestly, and giving all of us great advice. So we appreciate your time, and we appreciate the DBA for letting us do this project. And so thank you. Kandace, did you want to say any additional words?
Oh, no, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day. We appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate this. Is a great project. Thanks for including me. Congratulations to you guys. This is going to be fun. I mean, you're really creating oral history in our legal community, and I think that's going to be a great treat for us to have for many years. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.